Good morning and welcome back. Welcome back to Who Am I? Who Am I is just a free-form stream of consciousness, non-resistant. We're just gonna go flying for a bit, and we're gonna muse about the possibilities that are at hand. We're going to talk about the nature and structure of the universe. We're going to talk about the nature and structure of you, of us. Who am I? Where did we come from? Where are we going? Why are we here? And all of that seems very esoteric, and whatever the answers are, we're here. So then the question is, how does our equipment work? And what are the laws of the universe? And the rules of the game. How do the energies flow? What's the object of the exercise? And I think that from a general standpoint, let's just stand back and take a general view of this. I think that the object of the exercise is joyful sustainability. It is the creation of abundance. It is to discover the essence of who we are and how we function so that we can do that, so that we can function. We have lived in a civilization that has lived for thousands of years and not really known how to be. Periodically, we melt down, we destroy ourselves, we go to all-out war, we bomb the shit out of everything, take it all the way back to the Stone Age, and then build it back. We keep doing that over and over and over again. What's the point? Well, we aren't really doing it over and over again. We do it less and less completely. And so there's more of us left when we finish destroying ourselves. We aren't destroyed. And as we continue the story, we discover who we are. And I think that we're at a moment in time where you could add it all up and go, you know what? I think I can see what's happening here. I think I see the pattern. I think I see the picture. I think I have an inkling as to who we are. Now, I don't mean to be pedantic in any way, shape, or form. Nothing is set in stone. This is all spitballing. This is all just a perspective, just what it looks like from where I'm standing. And I want to know what it looks like from where you're standing, because the ultimate point of everything is not nearly as physically fixed as you think it is. In actual fact, it's just perspectives. And all of it is shining. So everyone is shining light on their particular place on the grid. I'm shining light on where my consciousness is landing right here in this space, and you're doing the same thing. And the idea is that we all light it up, and through our love, we see the light of what the others are shining their lights on. Because when you love them, then you care what they're looking at, and it lights up for you in a way. Anyway, I don't mean to get all... It's all perspective, and each one of us is shining their own light in their own space, and the whole thing is lit up when you see it from that direction, when you see it from the almighty side, when you see it from the side where it's all lit up. And what all these gobbledygook words mean is that every one of us, our point is valid because it's just a viewpoint anyway. And how can you say that it doesn't look like what it looks like from where I'm looking at it from? It's just a point of view. So, am I getting too esoteric already? We're only 4 minutes and 48 seconds into the show, and already I'm off the deep end. So who are we? Who are we? I know I keep asking that question. I'm uncertain as to how clearly we present some of the answers, and the only where I get all my answers from is from, I don't even know how to say this. It's just laying around out there, people. I have an idea about two different styles of consciousness. I read it somewhere once, but I'm so paraphrasing and then adding it into my own whatever. But I saw something about this. There's two ways to do this. You can either, be cynical and pretty much be cynical, skeptical, believe nothing. It's like if you wanted to get into my operating system, you'd better earn your way in, because I don't just believe anything. There's that kind of people, and I know plenty of people who are like that, just doubting Thomas. That's who that is. I don't believe anything unless I can, and then, okay, then I'll believe it. And then there's the others who believe everything. They just take everything in. And I have come to see these two styles as one, I call it addition consciousness, and the other one, I call it subtraction consciousness. And there's another way to look at it too. The other is, one is an and the other is an or. So if you're evaluating, like, well, is the truth this or is it this? Pick one. Or is it whatever comes to me in some manner, that's the truth and must be added in? Those are kind of two different styles. One starts out fairly gullible. I think that this one only develops in an atmosphere of trust and not fear. As someone developing like this, just believing everything. If you are in a tough situation, you don't stay gullible for very long. But I was a gullible one. I was one who believed everything. And I still do. I believe absolutely everything, because the believing it is not... Now, Abraham says all a belief is a thought that you keep thinking, and I know what she means by that. It's a little sloppy by now that she hasn't fleshed that out a little bit differently, a little bit more fully. But I do know what she's talking about. But when you believe everything, it means that there is a place in your consciousness that you're opening up where you do think everything. Everything goes. It's a place where... And the thing is believing everything is, you can do that anyway. All you're doing is just looking at points of view, and they're all valid in a way. Even the wrong ones are valid in the sense that they're showing what it looks like from that position on the grid, looking in that direction, balled up in that thought form, and 9 minutes in, and I really have lost my mind. Who am I? Well, so who am I as a biotechnology? So we're going to be talking about this in a really impersonal way. I've already started doing it. We're just riffing from the inside. I do want to bring both law of attraction and unified physics into this, because I think that these two concepts do get along with one another. It is my belief that they must get along with one another, because both of them have validity and both of them existeth in the same universe. And so they have to get along. So how do they meet? How is it true that that which is like unto itself is drawn, and you get what you put out is what you get back? How does that echoing, reverberating structure of the universe tie into our new understandings of how actual reality comes into actual being. How how actual manifested reality comes across the event horizon of the 0 point energy field from disorganized plonk plasma into actual stuff that you can see and touch and interact with. How does that happen? Because it is true that what you think about comes into being. There is a relationship between what we're thinking about and what comes into being around us. You get what you think about whether you want it or not. And what you think about is not so much the topics that you're thinking about, but the frequency that you are on as you are thinking about it. And you get what you are on the frequency of. It's sort of the two ends of the stick. I don't know if any of you have listened to Abraham Hicks much, and her particular brand of putting it out there. I recently I listened to her. I've been listening to Bashar. A friend of mine brought forth to me a book, The Wisdom of Seth, Abraham, and Bashar. It was after I had met Abraham, had never heard of Bashar. But anyway, they all have their elements, and they're saying it from their vantage point, and it's whole from where they are. So you have to kind of see what they were looking at from where they were looking at it from, and then just add everybody in. Just add them in, because we are all the blind men standing around the elephant trying to describe it. And you can only truly understand the elephant when you add everybody's picture of it in. No, it's a sail, it's a rope, it's a snake, it's a tree trunk, it's a wall. And when you add it all up, you get an elephant. And if you don't add it all up, then you've got yourself standing at one position on a very big picture, inadequately describing, maybe intricately describing, but you're still only standing at one piece. If you're really trying to describe the elephant, you should think about what everybody else is saying and take it into your heart. I noticed a long, long time ago, I had a girlfriend. She was my best girlfriend. I loved her so much. And she had been raised more of a wild child, both wilder and more cloistered than I had ever been. Both more protected and more set wild than I had ever been. And she didn't seem to understand certain things about the world that I just felt innately. I could feel where safety was and what was dangerous. And I didn't have to think about it much or talk about it or anything. I could just stay, in a good humor as I moved about the world and edged away from what I just knew was dangerous, and she'd just walk right in. Well, I didn't take every path that she did, but there was a moment in time when we were young that I noticed that through my love of her, I had a vantage point into her life that was different than had I not cared about her. If I had not loved her and was watching her live her life, I would have had a different perspective on it than it was like through my love of her, I could see what it looked like from where she was standing in a fuller way. Now, not as full as from where she was standing, but it fleshes out the light around them, gets bigger and lights up your grid, when you love them, you don't have to go all the way and live their dangerous life in order to have kind of a clear understanding of what they might be going through, because of your empathy, because of your sympathy, because of your caring about them, puts you in their place and helps you light up the grid around. We're all just perspectives. We're lights on the grid. And we're here to just be, to live our lives. Believe me, I spend an awful lot of my own time trying to figure out what my place is. What am I supposed to be doing here? You know, I'm a retired boomer in a position where personally, now I have pulled my own identity back to a very small self. So, you know, yes, I am connected to my bigger self. And it is going to be from here on out that I'm going to find how I want to connect to our bigger self, how I want to organize with it, who I want to play with, you know, who I want to, all of that. That will be for me to choose from here on. But I've pulled myself back to just myself. So I'm not a joiner. I'm not part of a larger organization already, except for my bowling league. But I want to organize. I want to be organized with the greater field around me. I just don't. Church doesn't float my. I know a lot of people, they channel a lot of their loving spirit and their organizational forces through the organizational form of their church, you know. And there's a lot of good works going on over there. People helping others mourn the dead, raise children, you know, raise families, get married. I already said mourn the dead. There's all kinds of lovely things that the church helps you do in your physical life, in our physical way. But I'm not called to that because their cosmology does not speak to me. But so actually we're going to be talking about cosmology, basically, is what Who Am I is. We're talking about who are we cosmologically speaking? Who are we as the matrix? What is the matrix? This quantum matrix, this energy field that is matrixing us all together, organizing us, and how does it work? Well, I've been sensing this, and it's still general. I still kind of feel it generally, but it's starting to come clear to me. We're being organized through this gentle, beautiful force that is spin. Spin is what it really is. It literally is spin. And that's such a beautiful thing to understand because it's not personal. And it's also up to us to weave it however we want to. Whatever is fun, whatever works, whatever is we are called to in our most flexible, highest self. We can work with this organizational force because it's as generic and general as spin. It's spin. And there's two kinds of organizational forces I'm starting to feel. There's two ways that that it comes into order, coherence, if you will. The storms have a kind of order. There is an outward spitting sort of storm that you can see it in the form of a hurricane. A hurricane is an organization, but it's an organization that creates chaos. Have you noticed that? There's another kind of organization that's on the other side of it. It's the downward, it's the pull. The pull of the shared point. It's both love and gravity somehow. It's the water going down. It's the spot that we all share. It's where we all have in common. Somehow. It's I don't even know exactly what it is. It's mystical, it's magical, but it is a force that is gently organizing us. And if you use its energy, if you put it at the center of your business, for instance, it's sort of the pull of the win-win position. You know, it's where all of our inner beings are standing at the same intersection point saying, hey, if you'll just get to this point, we all win. Every single one of us wins. We all get to continue on. We all get to play in abundance and fun with one another. It's not win-lose. It's not zero-sum. We have got to get off this idea that the paradigm, the primary paradigm that we are resting in is a win-lose zero-sum game. We've got to get off of that because the way the universe is designed, it's so malleable, it's so agreeable. It echoes back so perfectly whatever it is that you are putting out there. You get what you put out. And so when you play the game that way, it shakes out that way. But we don't want it to shake out that way because that gives us a whole bunch of freaking losers. And it gives us a finite pie and it's not the result we want. Now, when you play it you can play it that way and you can notice, hey, it seems to work out that way. Therefore, that must be true. Well, you got to understand how many different ways this universe can take us. You get what you put out, and it's like a big mirror. And your beliefs, whatever you're throwing out there, you're going to get a kind of an echo of it all back to you, and it's going to sort of agree with you. And so let's start thinking about what we really want the universe to agree with us about. Do we want the universe to agree with us about things like, it's totally crappy, shitty, hopeless, and we're all heading for darkness? Because if you want to believe that one, and you weave that into your every, all of your stuff, it actually will start echoing back to you as though that was true. And that's why people end up at the end of a tether, committing suicide and such, because they know all of the pits, all of the rabbit holes are bottomless. So just don't go there. Don't go into the negative to try to get to the bottom of it, because there will be no bottom. You can spin it into infinity, and the universe will give you a kind of a true echo back. It'll kind of look like, ooh, it is so dark, it is so dark. And that's how we start getting to believe our demons. But the truth of the matter is that there's no real source of darkness. The source of darkness is an echoing, it's actually really cool. And it's going to be part of what we're going to talk about, because I find it cool to think about this, and so I'm going to go in and think about it, and as I think about it, we're going to shed some light on it, maybe go to some places that I have never thought about it before. But the way this energy field works, the ideas of being, there's only two directions that you can be facing. You are either, in general, now I am a general, and I like to muse about things in the general because I like to see how generally all of it generally lines up, And then from a totally aligned general position, everyone go into the bushes and specialize. That's the way the human being is designed. That's the way the human social system, how we're designed to each one of us be highly, highly specialized in our little spot on the grid, shining light in a highly specialized way for a high degree of, so you focus in really close so that you can get a high degree of whatever that word is. It's specialization, but I keep saying that word and I don't want to keep saying that word. It's redundant when you say it too many times. But if we are not in full alignment, if we are not in perfect general alignment, then it really isn't safe to rush out and highly specialize. We all need to be in kind of general alignment with the general setup of who we generally are. And because I have felt that my people were not this way, I have all my life sort of stayed in the general. I did not go to a specialty. I tried at different times thinking about this specialty or that specialty. It didn't ever really, capture me like I wanted to be captured. I was interested in cooking for a while, and I bartended for a while, and that was fun. I have sort of played and dabbled at this and that. I'm interested in a lot of topics, a lot of subjects. Mostly just general. I'm a general. And as it turns out, that seems to be my specialty. Being a general is my specialty. Just that general alignment factor. It's what I have fun at this. This one is fun for me, to line us all up generally. I noticed when I was young. When was I born? I was born in 1960. In 1962, a book came out written by Rachel Carson called Silent Spring. And when I was 8, maybe, I got a hold of that book because my parents had it. And my father was a botanist and a conservationist, a forester, range conservationist, working for the Forest Service with his master's degree in botany and forestry. Actually, one of his degrees, his under is in one, and his graduate is in something else. One is botany and the other is forestry sciences, and I can't remember which one is which. It might be that his undergrad is botany and his graduate studies was forestry sciences, or it's the other way around. I'm not really sure. Probably under is botany. I could ask him. He's still alive. 98 and a half years old. 98 and 8 months, as a matter of fact. I could still ask him. I will next time. I wish I had developed a relationship with him the way I developed with my mother. Because with my mother, I spent the last 10 years of her life not being in her presence exactly. I visited her from time to time, but I had a standing phone call with her every Sunday. It sort of moved around. Sometimes it wasn't Sunday, and occasionally we missed, but for the most part, and that phone call wouldn't be just talking for 5 minutes about material stuff. We would talk for an hour and joke about things and reminisce about things and, be in one another's company. And I wish I had developed that with my father before this point, because now I don't have that door in, and he is not nearly as conscious as he used to be. You can imagine. I'm going to be working on this myself so that by the time I reach 100 years old, I have some more avenues of places where we can go in my mind, where we can talk about things in the world and relevant stuff, even if my body is falling away. And maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll still be in good coherence. I don't know. I know that people over at the Resonance Science Foundation and the International Space Federation are exploring. There's a lot of places, a lot of things that you can explore with the new physics, the new understanding of physics. Now, my husband brought some other thing to me. So it was something about the magic formula, the magic thing that let's see what it said. What did it say? It was, he sent it to me in an email. He likes to show me that he recognizes what I care about. And let's see. Magical equation unites quantum physics, general relativity in a first. Although I disagree with this, because if this is brand new, this is not a first. Quantum physics and general relativity, although maybe they have, maybe they've done a mathematical equation over there on that side that, that also works. I don't want to discount what they've got, but it certainly is not the first time that quantum and cosmological physics has been united. It happened 12 years ago. Coming up this December, 12 years ago, when Nassim published his first paper uniting the two, showing that actually the strong and weak forces within so there's this strong force that holds all of the subatomic forces in an atom, holds them into an atom so that it doesn't fly off. In actual fact, when you look at it from the new physics point of view, that force is actually gravity. And that's intriguing right there. What do you mean it's gravity? How can that be gravity? Well, it is gravity. And I'm at a crossroads right now. So right here, we're tipping right here. Where is she going to go? Which direction is she going to go? Is she going to go over to the unified physics side of this equation, or is she going to stay on the more personal, from the human vehicle, and how does it work, and what are the laws of the universe as it governs living beings as opposed to mathematical equations? Which direction is she going to go? Is she going to talk to us about, let's get off fossil fuels? Let's get off fossil fuels. Is she going to talk to us about that one and help us understand that, over unity devices are possible, and it is possible to get onto source energy? That's the big kahuna, by the way. It is not clean fusion or something. People want to tell us that the holy grail of energy production is clean fusion. And the reason they want to go that direction is because clean fusion is still top-down, centralized energy forms that is then distributed over wires and controlled and sold by those who produce the energy to you, and then it has to then be distributed over wires and through homes that are wired in traditional ways, and accounted on electrical bills and such. That's that kind of energy paradigm still. And so of course they want, if they have to trade in their tens of hundreds of trillions of dollars of economic activity that they have represented in what's left of the fossil fuels, all the oil they still own, if they have to turn that in, then at least give us clean fusion so that we can sell everybody that. But that's not the answer, people. That really isn't the answer, because it still gives us the same problem. It gives us centralized political power in the wrong way. We need to hand the energy back to all of the hands at the bottom, so that the power, the literal power, is given back to all of the people. We're in a moment. I'm feeling a spiritual sameness between, Jefferson had this idea that the same questions were alive in his day as are still alive today. Who can you trust the actual ordering of human society with? The common human beings out there rioting in the street, or the sober, landowners, the ones who have a stake in the world, the ones who have children and property and, educations or I don't know whether the education thing is, but you know what I mean. It was a question back in Jefferson's day. And his idea was that, the power had to be in the hands of the masses, even if they were unwashed. And then actually what you needed to do was educate them, which is how come he was more proud of being, one of the founders or the whatever of the University of Virginia than he was of having been president of the United States. And that was what he wanted on his tombstone. That something about his connection with the University of Virginia, because if you're going to trust the masses, then everybody has to be educated. And I think everybody has to be educated in this other esoteric topic that none of us really completely understand, but we need to understand. We need to understand who we are and how these energies work, because I think that us banging around not understanding these energies is what's making all the demons crop up. We've got to tether the demon Xanth back under the magical kingdom so that it can, fuel all of the magic in the land instead of stalking us like I don't know what the words are. What's the visions in my head, or the scary Halloween version, with the realistic ghouls, not the happy skeletons dancing with happy ghosts, friendly ghosts, and that version of Halloween. I'm seeing the other one that we create when we do not understand the way these energies work. Now, I think on another day I will talk about the physics of this, but I think this is where my passion is going to end up bringing me, helping us understand what happens when we let our negative self drive the car. Because we are a field phenomenon, there is a thing that happens that we affect each other. So it's not just my business. When I go negative, even if I'm just beating up on myself over here quietly, there is still an effect that happens in the field. Because I can see it. So remember, there's only two directions that you could be facing. You're either facing forward or you're facing backwards. If you're facing forwards, then the two selves that you are in alignment with one another. You're flowing well together. You're paying attention to how you feel. You are moving in the direction of things that interest you. That's facing forward. If you're facing forward, if you're in a positive mode of any sort, then act. Get specific. Light your way, because you're facing forward. However, if you are in a negative state of mind, anywhere, I'll show you. I got an emotional guidance scale. Let's see, emotional guidance scale. This is just the list. If you're anywhere from contentment on up, and actually, if you look at this scale, just kind of look at these, they're up at the top is a very high momentum of positive emotion going on. You've been working at it a while, and you're tying more parts of yourself into this equation, and so that's how come you have more. There's more momentum. It's a higher momentum, and then as you drop down, the momentum of the positive dwindles until it's just contentment. It's not passion anymore. It's contentment. That momentum has dwindled, and now you've crossed over. Now you're starting a momentum of negative emotion. That first bit, boredom, it's not a very strong momentum yet. Pessimism starts getting a little more. Frustration, now you can feel the jangle. This is another way of looking at that same scale. As you see the positive momentum, towards the top, as you get more and more positive, that momentum builds. And all of this has to do with the relativity of your two selves, because you are two selves. Now, the source side of yourself, you may not really understand very well, because this source side of yourself, in a way, you share it with everybody. But in a way, you do not share it with everybody, because your particular point of source is anchored where you are. And it makes a lot of difference. It makes all the difference between whether it's your source energy, whether it's your inner being, or whether it's someone else's inner being. But all of our inner beings are playing nice with one another. They are the same being. They are just anchored from different positions on the grid. And so your version of the inner being is focused particularly and specifically on exactly what you love and how it shakes out specifically in your life. And so your inner being really is you. It is all that you care about. And how all that you care about interfaces with what everyone else cares about. Because we are all one being. That's the secret. Shh, there's only one of us here. Now, having said that, of course, there are many, 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 many of us here. And each one of us is divinely autonomous. And you are not to sacrifice yourself for the whole or subjugate yourself to the whole. Just as you make your equations about what would be best for you, and you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to be selfishly oriented. You need to be selfishly oriented. You need to take into consideration what would be best for you. However, when you do that, you need to know that you are not just you, and what serves you the best is what serves all of us. It's the win-win-win-win position. And so as you're baking the cake out there of your business or your projects, just at the very least, first do no harm. So, and then past the do no harm bit, so you aren't like stomping on the field around you in a like unconscious, brutal way that's kicking the shit out of everything around you, but it's what I want. And, as you take your ATV tearing through the freshly rained on forest and rip through the like a pig in Hawaii, like an escaped domestic pig in Hawaii, wreaking destruction on the ecosystem around you. That's what we don't want to be. So if we, instead of being that unconscious, like, I'm selfishly motivated and I really like rutting around in this, wonderful Hawaiian forest, isn't it wonderful? That's who we are when we do not take the win-win position. You got to take the win-win. You got to understand that you are more than just a pig in the field. You are one with the group around you. And in order for us to make it to the holy grail of sustainability and, all of that, source energy and all of that stuff, we have got to not destroy ourselves ecologically in the process. We've got to understand that we are all one being, each contributing to a massive, and you can see that this is true already. And it plays out in certain places already in the field. Things like the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences and all of the there isn't just one place, one repository of our collective banding together, each in our specialty, bound by a central view of who we are, just a central recognition of how we come together and are interrelated and interdependent upon one another. How is it that humans organize? And how is it that humans could organize in the future? Well, you got two choices. And one choice I'm going to tell you right now, we've been trying it for the last bunch of thousands of years, and it's the only way that we've been able to work it out up to a point. But it's not going to be the way of the future. It's going to be more of a loose, more like rules, a set of a contract, a social contract that we all recognize, this is who we are and this is what we all agree to. And then we sort of enforce. Is that the word? We keep it going without an outside military forcing us to. So the two ways are, one is you have an outside in system written down. This is what we do. When this happens, then we have to do this. And then when that happens, then we do that. And when confronted with this, then blah, 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 blah. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like the Old Testament, all of the rules. This is the structure of our society, and this is the structure of our government, and this is the structure of, and when this happens, then this is how we respond, and it's all written in these laws, and we study these ad infinitum, we teach them to our children, and then we enforce them. That's one way to go about doing it, and it's what we have been doing up until this moment. And it's really interesting to me. I can see the spirit parallel between, my mother used to talk about this. She would try to explain to me the spirit difference between the time of the Old Testament. This was when we followed the law. We had to follow the law of our forefathers. And it was written down thusly, and all the rules, and all the rules, and all the rules. And what was the meaning of the New Testament? Well, that was when Jesus came along. And then now it wasn't all about the laws anymore. It was about the spirit, the feeling, the love, the peace, this organization that comes from that direction. And there is an organizing force that love is at the center of. But it doesn't have to go baldly all the way to schmaltzy love. It can be just, love expressed as the win-win position, It doesn't have to be maudlin. It doesn't have to be sentimental. It's love expressed as an understanding that we're all who we really are. Oh, I'll stay there for a minute. I could do this one. This is a nice one. I have all these scenes that I have them all set in my OBS studio because I like these. I like this kind of tranquility, the feeling of the peace of all these natural scenes. What is in common with all of these scenes, all of nature? It's peace, the peace of nature. And I believe that our ticket to the stars, ticket to the cosmos, is this total understanding of who we are, and this frequency of peace that we are all, where all of the truth, where all of the information lies. All of the information is on this bandwidth of peace and love and open, non-resistant energy. I don't know. So who am I in all of this? So we were talking about there's only two directions. You're either facing forward or you're facing backwards. And if you're facing forward, all is well. You feel positive, go act, get specific, have fun. Don't be afraid, just go that direction. There's only two directions. So I say forwards and backwards. There's also there's other ways to demark these two directions. Fear and love is another way. Growth and protection and growth is another way. And you're either moving this way or you're moving that way. It's a toggle switch, and you can't go both directions at the same time. You're either facing forwards, you're either going forwards or you're going backwards. And this is where it gets interesting, because this is what I think is happening. And it happens across the field. And it's an energy thing that happens. And if we would learn that this is what's happening and stop doing it, we would quit creating the dark energies in the world that keep being so destructive and painful around us. And we would be a lot more peaceful and a lot more playful, and we would have a lot more fun on this planet as going forward. I actually do believe we are going to hit sustainability, because if I can see the way the general fits together, then I'm not the only one. Because I am pretty much nobody. I am pretty much nobody, except for the fact that I really am somebody. I have been thinking about this all my life, and I've been putting it together, and anybody can. All of the clues are laying at our feet. You just have to pick them all back up, and you have to remember what the questions are, because the answers are everywhere. What was the question? The answer is 42. Oh, wait a minute. I'm a little unclear about how I asked that question. That was from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That was the computer that had been working on this forever and ever and ever and ever and ever finally spit out the answer to the questions of life, the universe, and everything, and the answer is 42. And then people are like, wait a minute, what was the question? Anyway, so this is how it works. If you are facing forward and this means you're in alignment. That means you're in a positive state of being. And the reason we call this alignment, and the reason we call this facing forward, is because your true self, your inner being self, which is the continuum of all that you care about. It doesn't include any of the things that you don't care about, and it isn't dependent upon the actual shapes of the matter, because the matter changes, but this formless form underneath never changes. That one is really you. That's you. Now, that one can only be positive. The real you that's really you, that continues on, that's connected to everything else, that part of you can only be positive. So if you are taking smaller thoughts, the only reason that it feels like a negative is because you're taking thoughts that are not the same as what your inner being is thinking about all the possibilities and all the fun and all the great things that could happen and all the ways that these things connect and all of the cool stuff that we really are. That's what your inner being is thinking about. How cool we are. And how fun this is, and how interesting it all is. And if you're, thinking about yesterday and that one stupid thing you said to that one person that doesn't matter, and how a lame you are, and how idiotic your neighbor is, and how much you hate your job, and all that kind of stuff, those are none of the thoughts that your inner being is thinking about. Your inner being is thinking thoughts. She's thinking thoughts about outer space and about fun things that we can do here on the planet, ideas about theme parks, and she's thinking about, how to recycle everything and turn the world beautiful again. She's thinking about how much she loves us all for trying, for being willing to it's a painful place out here in the world. It is to live in a physical body and try to figure this out without our group knowing who we are, and we're all of us on our own. It's not the easiest thing in the world. But she is not concerned about all that because she knows who we really are, that we really are this cool functioning machine that we haven't even begun to tap into and play with. It is going to be a magnificent future of beauty creation and fun as we... Who am I? Who am I? So what are the problems that face humanity? Just in case you think I'm having a Pollyanna show here where I am just all doe-eyed and naive about the problems of the world. I am not naive about the problems of the world. We have a tendency to go into this authoritarian psychosis thing, which is actually quite serious. And when we take it seriously and take it all the way to the serious, people in that psychosis can be quite mean, very, very cruel, very mean. They can take it all the way to Holocaust as they believe their blood and soil and this outside value paradigm instead of understanding that we are all in this together and it is not a zero-sum game and we are not in competition with one another. Those at the bottom, at the very bottom, scrambling around in the dirt, they're in competition with one another. Those at the top are collaborating with one another in beautiful, harmonic. It's the order of the universe. It is the order of the universe. The order of the universe is spin. It is spin. That's what's ordering the universe. It's as simple as that. And yet, in that simplicity lies complexity beyond your imagining and beyond anyone's need to imagine. You don't need to imagine it farther than that. It is spin. And you just gotta get into the spin of harmonious coherence as opposed to the wild spin of the storms of chaos, because those are the two I'm going to use the wrong word. Vectors of spin. That's not really the right answer. That's not the right word. Those are the two ways that it spins, though. The in and the out. And the in is... the inward spin is the one that you're finding as you go into meditation, for instance. You're going into the center of the center of the center of your spin. You're going into the center of that wheel of samsara, that still place in the center of it, where you can order the organization of the spinning vortex around you. You don't want to be out on the outer edge of that, holding on to the wheel with your legs flying out. You know, the outside, on the outside of the wheel, that's a wild ride. Woo! You want to be in the center of the stillness of the spin. You know, there's all kinds of ways to figure how that, the meaning of that, both poetic and literal, you know, because there's we're talking literal vortices here, the vortices above your head, reaching the ionosphere, and the vortex below your head, reaching the center of the earth, connecting you to all things, connecting you to the center of the sun, to the vortex at the center of the sun, which connects you to the vortex at the center of the galaxy, which connects you to the vortex at the center of the universe and the multiverse, and on. And as you go in your center of yourself, you click in to the morphogenetic fields of all of this data and information flowing to you from the rest of the universe. And I believe that our peaceful understanding of this structure is the ticket to being able to be an intergalactic traveler and a soul that moves around the body of the universe without being a freaking autoimmune disorder, moving through the body of the universe, causing chaos and making war as we go. I don't think that the Star Trek view of what it is like to move around the Federation is it's not the unconscious. I don't think you can travel through the vast, vast, vast spaces of the universe without understanding the structure of it. And I don't think you can understand the structure of it without understanding that the basics, the underlying frequency to be focused on for our intents and purposes is the one at the center of it's peace. It's peace and it is love. There is an energy at the center of the vortex of the storms of chaos, and that's a different one, and that's not the one I want to focus on, although there it is over there. Is it a source of evil? No. Is it a source of energy? Yes. Who am I? So, I've trailed away because I can see a number of things I've left in the road behind me. One was I was going to do my quick litany of all the bad things that, truly face humanity. I started with authoritarian psychosis and I didn't get any farther than that. I usually don't even say that one. I usually say things like, I usually start with the sixth mass extinction. Because I'm telling you, for a person who loves small creatures and who adores natural wild spaces and the wild animals of our planet, sixth mass extinction is shorthand for billions of small tragedies. That if I should turn and look in on any one of those would break my heart right in two, and has before. Drowning polar bears and orphan elephants, and it's just beyond my ability to bear. Throw in on top of that shattered marine life or Korean food dogs, and I am a puddle of mush on the floor for days. I have learned that I can't actually focus in that direction. I can't focus in the direction of that tragedy. It makes me feel too bad to do that. So I look at it from a general standpoint, and I see sixth mass extinction, and I see Garbage Island, and I see global warming, and I see desertification, the growing deserts, and I see human suffering, starving children, and babies are so beautiful. We are so beautiful and so wonderful, and it's all such a tragedy. And you look that direction and you're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my God. Ah. Every rat hole is bottomless. Remember, every dark hole that you choose to go down will have no bottom to it. And so then you pull yourself back out and you're like, ah. But the fact is that we are powerful creators, and whichever direction we are looking, that is the direction that we are going. And that is how come you cannot get to a positive place from a negative point of view. And so you can't stand there and stare at all the things that break your heart and move in the direction of anything better. Because you can't know which direction, you can't move in a positive direction unless you are in a positive place inside of your own self. You have to know that the evils of the world, in a way, do not touch you. And in a way, this is the clay that we make our lives from. So of course it touches you, but does not touch you. Who you really are is positive. Positive, positive, not negative. Not negative. The real you is positive. And so that gives to you the meaning of your negative emotions. All of a sudden it's like, oh, it's just a relative thing. It's not an absolute indictment of whatever condition I'm looking at out there. As a matter of fact, the question is, who am I unconditionally? Who am I beyond the conditions? Who am I regardless of the conditions? And who you are, regardless of the conditions, is the positive side of the wavelength. You are only the positive side of the wavelength. And so when you take thoughts that are small and it's the small part. It's the taking thoughts that your inner being knows is not true. So maybe you got all sad because you're alone. I'm alone. I'm alone. I'm alone. And you look around your physical body, and from your physical body's perspective, it kind of would look like, it looks like I'm alone. It looks like I'm sitting in a room all by myself, talking to myself. That's what it looks like. But you know what? That is deceptive, because I don't think I am alone. I actually think that all of the universe is here on this side with me. It's just my physical body that appears to be alone. So say if I took a thought like, I'm alone, there's no one with me. There is no one to help me. I have no help. I have no guidance. I don't know what to do. I am worthless. I am meaningless. Every one of these thoughts, you can tell, I can't even get sad about any of those because I know that every single one of those is not true. I have so much assistance. I am aided and abetted by all of the minds that have come before me and that existeth around me right now. The 300 and some minds that touched my show, I know that we have connected, and I have connected to the thoughts of so many others that I have heard come forth and say, this is what it looks like from where I stand. And then I touch those thoughts and then I'm like, oh my gosh, we are not alone. We have each other. We are all in this together. We really are. We really are. And I bet you anything that if I walked out into my world and all I could see was the love around me, and I trained myself to focus on the love, that it would be there for me, that any time I needed it, sort of like the early Christians, and they're leaving the little symbol of the fish, and to aid and abet one another. The symbol of the fish told each other that this is someone who understands the Spirit. And as a matter of fact, I believe that what is happening right now, this rise in awareness, this raising of our consciousness, this up-leveling of our being, it is the equivalent of what we have been talking about for a couple thousand years. It's the second coming of Christ. But the second coming of Christ is not so much a celebrity event. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a personality somewhere that will embody the spirit of this. But the second coming of Christ is the rising of this Christ spirit in all of us, as all of us recognize, oh, Oh, that's what it is. That's who we are. That's how it works. That's how I get what I want. We're dreaming this into place. And so the most important aspect of the whole thing is, what spirit are you in as you are looking at the subjects you are looking at? You know, Abraham calls it two ends of this of a stick. Every subject is really two subjects, like a stick with two ends of it. And on one end is what you want, and on the other end is actually the absence of what you want. What you want, not there. And so it looks like it's the same subject, but it isn't really the same subject. Which end of the stick are you on? Are you thinking about money? Or are you thinking about the money that you don't have? The absence of money, the lack of money, it's a different frequency. And one of them feels safe and the other one doesn't feel safe. So you got to find the one that feels safe. Find that end of the stick and vibrate from that end of the stick. And then, supposedly, all of the things that we like, that we want, that we care about, that we love, that we have been putting in our vortex of creation for all eternity, can start coming out, and we can start harvesting some of these things. We know what we want. We want peace, we want love, we want order, we want efficiency, we want beauty, we want freedom, we want fun, we want abundance, we want comfort, we want joy, we want life, we want all of these things. But in any of those words, did you see a condition? There was no condition in any of those words. Every one of those words was like a spirit. And so who we are, what we're supposed to do, we focus on the spirit and let the matter take care of itself. And what we've been trying to do is focus on the matter and let the spirit take care of itself. But that doesn't work out very well. And as a matter of fact, I have a little illustration of that. It's a well-known thing. I found it the other day because it kept coming up. It kept coming up in my in the back of my mind. I could feel it as a story that. Here we go. It's from Milton Mayer's They Thought They Were Free. And he's talking about how the nation changed out from under them. And how it didn't, the steps, the little step from here to there, you know. So I'm going to read this. Let's see, where do I want to start it? Because, and one day, too late, your principles, if you were ever sensible of them, all rush in upon you. The burden of self-deception has grown too heavy, and some minor incident, in my case, my little boy, hardly more than a baby saying, "Jewish swine," collapses it all at once. And you see that everything has changed, and changed completely under your nose. The world you live in, your nation, your people, is not the world you were born in at all. The forms are all there, all untouched, all reassuring. The houses, the shops, the jobs, the meal times, the visits, the concerts, the cinema, the holidays. But the spirit, which you never noticed because you made the lifelong mistake of identifying it with the forms, is changed. Now you live in a world of hate and fear, and the people who hate and fear do not even know it themselves. When everyone is transformed, no one is transformed. Now you live in a system which rules without responsibility even to God. The system itself could not have intended this in the beginning, but in order to sustain itself, it was compelled to go all the way. Now, what that's illustrating is quit paying so damn much attention to the forms, people, because the form is not the most important part of that. Everybody kept their eyes locked on the form, and the spirit changed out from under them, and they never saw it until it was too late. Because they're at the aperture of their focus was locked on the form. And the form is not the important part. It's the spirit. And the reason it is because we are vibrational beings, people. And your feelings are your way of sussing out the vibrational world around you. Know that your emotions, in a way, are like... They're like an aspect of your cosmic vibrational anatomy that is literally touching the physical world and giving you readings back about what's real around you, who you really are, the value of everything, the connection to everything. You're getting real feedback from your inner being, who's reading it all, by the way, because we are holographic. Because the whole thing through the reverberation of the Planck field touching all of the other Plancks and passing the data and information back and forth across all the scales of all of the levels of the universe, that's what your inner being is reading. That's why she knows. That's why you should trust her. Don't go it alone. Don't go into dark places of thought where your inner being is not with you. Take your inner being with you everywhere. Where she isn't is irrelevant. Where she is where she's trying to guide you. So go where she is, because that's where it's her will-o'-the-wisp out in front of you saying, come this way, come this way. Everything you want is this way. All the fun, all the freedom, all the efficiency, all the joy, all the life is this way. Come this way. How do I come this way? Care how you feel. Don't let yourself go into negative emotion and then just be all negative, all unconsciously, without realizing what it is you're doing. You're not only... You're crossing your own energy stream. You're creating demons in the field. You've created a shadow self that now is stalking the land. You've unleashed, and yet it's not that serious. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You've just gotten yourself backwards. Turn yourself back forwards. Now act. If you find yourself facing backwards, don't do anything until you can get yourself turned back forwards and then move again. Otherwise, there is a benefit of you going backwards and creating the negative energy, in that you are illustrating to those around you how that works and why that's a painful thing to do. And the more you do it, the clearer it gets. And actually, the value of the illustration of what happened during the World War last century, and I have started to call it the World War. The World War, parts 1 and 2. Because it really is true that the reason that we fought World War II is because Hitler was not done with World War I. He had not spent it. And he was the one who invited us all to that second part. The first part Other people started, and he joined enthusiastically, and he was in it, believing what they said about, these things being worth fighting for and dying for and all of that. And then they just surrendered, and he was like, what? So World War II was really World War I Part 2. And I think it's helpful to call it that way, because if you go World War I and then World War II, and then it's tempting to think that there would be World War III and World War IV and World War X and on, when in actual fact that's not. That was one lesson, and we don't need to do that one again. And it would be so devastating for so many billions of people now to revisit anything like that again. We better not be thinking in terms of World War III. We need to be thinking in terms of, who am I, and how does this whole system actually work, so that we can work with it playfully and joyfully and effectively and efficiently and sustainably. There is a position, there is a blessed and sacred position of the win-win. The win-win, win-win-win-win-win-win is the paradigm we're looking for. We are not looking for the win-lose. And that's a little bit of the problem with the Darwinian model, the survival of the fittest sort of implies a kind of eternal conflict amongst the species in order to see who has the right to survive and who needs to perish, when in actual fact, in a blossoming, blooming, abundant ecosystem, almost everybody survives. It's survival of the fit. And there is room for many, 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 many fit. And as a matter of fact, we all do better when we all do better. When there are many, many, many hands make light work. And if we are all in alignment with the same kinds of tasks and the same kinds of ideas about, then we can all be cooperative components to the same great projects. Things like, I can hardly wait to see the projects that humanity will do as we clean up the mess that we have made, using the unlimited, clean, free energy that we're going to find when we realize two things. Number one, over Unity devices are possible, and number two, we can plug directly into source energy. And you're not going to convince me that these things are not possible. They are absolutely possible. And when we find them, and actually we should restlessly be focusing on nothing other than that. If we believe that it's possible to get off of fossil fuel and onto clean, free source energy for all beings everywhere, there isn't anything more important for our national labs, for our the problem is that our national labs, as they exist right now, are not honest institutions completely in alignment with who we really are. Some parts of these national labs are not in alignment. They are something else. They're working on weapons to destroy one another because we believe that there is such a thing as an enemy who is a human being. Our enemies are human beings. That is certainly not the truth. That's sort of like my kidneys deciding that my liver is the enemy or whatever. Not true. Not true. So, what is the enemy then? If there is no us and them, and there is the no us and them, there's no us and them, there's no other that you can point to and say, they did it. Human beings did it. Every time. Human beings did it. And no amount of saying, no, but this was Chinese people, or no, these were German people, or no, these were Italians, or these were Mexicans or no, human beings did it. There is no us and them. So what's the problem? Because we obviously have a problem, or we wouldn't think that it is important to maintain a what would the number be now? I don't know. Is it 700 billion a year? Is it 800 billion a year of the United States Treasury that goes towards a national defense? Who the hell are we defending ourselves from? You know? Ourselves? We're the only ones who has that kind who we need to have that kind of firepower to protect ourselves against. Ourselves. So, what is the enemy? Because we definitely seem to think we have an enemy. So, who is the enemy? The enemy is the polarity in the field itself. The polarity, that tendency to go all in on an us versus them paradigm. That's the enemy itself. And Paul Levy calls it Wetiko disease. It is a dissociation between the brain and the heart, is what it is. And the Heart Math Institute has been studying that, studying the connection, the blessed connection between the brain and the heart, and how the whole human system functions better. Well, it just functions properly. It doesn't just function better, it functions properly when the head and the heart are in alignment together. Health improves, cognition improves, memory improves, everything, reflexes improve, everything improves when the heart and the brain are aligned. And when the heart and the brain are in conjangly discord with one another, then you don't operate as well. You don't make decisions clearly and quickly and smoothly and correctly. All kind of things. So I'm going to take a little time hack. It looks like we are coming up on 1 hour 26 and a half minutes. I always go at least an hour and a half, and we'll see how much longer I will go than this. Today. It all depends. I only like to go as far as the energy takes me. If I start to flounder and be like, well, what should I talk about now? And what did I leave out? I have left out a lot of stuff. I do talk about, at the beginning of my show, when I say, this is the show, who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? What's the object of the exercise? All that kind of stuff. Part of that whole bit is I think that we've been genetically modified. And I think that the fact that we have been genetically modified implies some important things about the structure. Because, well, hold on a second. Let me see where I really want to go with this discussion. Well, first of all, if we've been genetically modified, it means somebody did it to us. And that could only have been someone coming off planet Earth. Either it's an extraterrestrial from somewhere else off of planet Earth, or we had levels of sophistication and advancement that developed on the planet way past what we have been taught. Either way, those are both paradigm-shattering things to imagine. If we have been genetically modified, then that is paradigm-shattering, at least as far as our public, general, how we agree about the sciences, for instance, how we agree about what the history of humanity on planet Earth. We seem to agree with that view. The one that's in the natural history museums. You go look at this is how we developed. This is the timeline of humanity. Well, this idea, I don't remember any of them, any of the natural history museums that I have ever been in that point to back at around 200,000 years ago. This is where we were genetically modified by extraterrestrial beings. I have never seen that in one of our natural history museums. And so until I see that, I think that there is more work to be done. I believe we're genetically modified, and I believe that the evidence of it is this. First of all, look at the neocortex system. Just understand that it's your overview mind. It's that special layer of our physical mind's ordering system. It's that special layer that makes us uniquely human. It gives us self-awareness. It gives us a certain range of it gives us an emotional range that's way more. We get way madder, way more evilly, grudgingly entrenched in the negative side. We get way more divinely exalted on the positive side. Our emotional range, our instrument plays a way larger range. And it's the neocortex mind that gives us this. And the interesting part about this is that this is the aspect of ourselves that speaks to the quantum field. That's why I don't think it was accidental that this happened to us. And now we're going to look at human chromosome number 2 is largely responsible for that extra plumped up neocortex layer that is uniquely human. It comes from human chromosome number 2. 76% of the volume. I get the 76% number from Greg Braden now. It's not written on this slide. It was written on a different slide. But human chromosome number 2 is a special chromosome. It's a fused chromosome. It is two, if you believe this, so this comes from PNAS.org. This is the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. This is where our Academy of Sciences that we pay, that we believe, that we listen to, they're working on all of our technologies. They tell us what the truth is about the physical world around us. They publish to this place, it's open source, so that you can see what work they're doing over there. This was published by geneticists back in 1991, and they're saying that human chromosome number 2 is a fused chromosome. And the full abstract says, it's the relic of an ancient telomere-to-telomere fusion and marks the point at which two ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. This is their conclusion. After studying the sequencing, the full genetic sequencing of human chromosome number 2, they're like, hey, look at what this looks like. This is actually two separate whole chromosomes that have been fused together, telomere to telomere, with redundancies, because each one of them is a whole chromosome. They both have all the parts. Well, when they fused them together, telomere to telomere, some of the redundancies, some of the repeats were just clipped away on one side or the other, so that now it has to stay together if it wants to have all the parts. It helped hold the fusion together. And then it's responsible for the freaking neocortex. Now, this could have happened accidentally, I suppose. If you can figure out a mechanism, I'll listen. I'll listen to anybody. But I just think we were genetically modified. And then it created our emotional guidance system. It gave us our emotional range where we can go all the way from passion that we can hold onto with our thoughts, our passion with our thoughts, so that it just keeps going and going. It's not just a flash in the moment that gives us some kind of a reading on a condition in the field, which is what our emotions were before. Now they're bound up with our thinking processes. That's why it's really important not to spin them from our negative self. Not to spin your thoughts from your negative self, because that self is actually not your real self. And if you spin your thoughts from that side, then you spin a being, a shadow being, into the world around us that isn't really real, but boy, is he awful. It's the demon. It's the empty, the soulless. It's the thing we're all scared of. But it isn't really anything. It's just a shadow that we have created because we don't understand who we are, and we operated from our negative self. We spun out that energy from a backwards facing position, and we created that energy in the quantum field around us. And now, how does it play out? I could go through a further explanation of how it plays out, because so what creates this Shiva energy in the field? Being out of alignment, and then acting from our out of alignment, because now you act on impulses that are not in alignment. You create systems that are not fully in alignment. And what happens when you create systems that aren't in alignment? They don't include everyone. Somebody's left out. Somebody falls through the cracks. They experience fear, anger, jealousy, all that kind of stuff. They start acting from that and then the whole thing just, do you see how it works? We affect each other. We affect each other. That's how come we can't get out of each other's business. We would like to get out of each other's business, but we can't get out of each other's business because I am more than just myself. I am a bigger self that includes you, but is centered in me. And you are part of a bigger self that includes me, but it's centered in you. And we got to look at it that way. And actually, we're going to get to a place where we are having so much fun with this whole process, where all of each other is cooperative components to wonderful projects that benefit mutually each other, and, builds a more beautiful, sustainable, sustaining, life-sustaining world. A world where we are creating abundance and not sixth mass extinction. A world where we are creating joy and love and fun. And it's going to be easy. It's going to be easy when we have free, clean energy at the point of desire. Anybody who wants it, who has a project in mind, who has desires they want to fulfill, especially when we learn to align our desires up with the win-win position. Quit trying to play the game like a win-lose, because you're creating losers. You're creating losers all over the board, and I don't want losers. I don't want you to be a loser. I don't want me to be a loser. I want us all to be winners. I want us to get tired of all that winning. Anyway, so I see I'm an hour and 37 minutes in. What more do I want to say? Do I want to say anything else? I could say something about this. If indeed you're either facing forward or you're facing backwards, and you're either going slow or you're going fast, you're going. And you're either going forward or you're going backwards. And that's you don't really have a lot of choice. So I have this little slide here which describes to me, this represents the accelerator and the brakes. Your accelerator is when you go specific. Your brakes is when you pull back to the general. Pull back to the general, that's you going slower. Go slower, go slower. If you don't know what you're doing, go slow. Pull back to the general. And then if you're in a positive state of whatever, and you get excited about something in a positive way, ooh, that's interesting. I will follow that. I will follow that. I am passionately interested in this thing. Then get specific. But if you're in a negative, don't go specific, because that's the accelerator. And if you're in a negative, it means you're facing backwards. It means you don't want to go fast from that direction. At the very, very most, you might want to go slow from this negative direction, just so I can get a I see what's going on. I see what's going on. Okay, I don't want to do this. But you certainly, from a negative position, don't go specific, because what the negative position is telling you is that you are now, if you move forward, you are heading exactly in the direction of where you do not want to go. So don't go. If you get specific from that position, you're going faster, and you're going to get there faster. So that's why I use this one, the 4 general states of being. And so what do you do about it? Care how you feel, learn the processes of how to pivot, don't take yourself so dang seriously, learn how to identify with your positive aspect, realizing that that's who you really are, because that's the continuum of who you are. Who you are in your physical, specific, conventional self is also who you really are, because it's who you are right now, and now is the only time you've got, and so of course it's who you really are. But it's not the continuum of who you really are. It's just who you are right now. This body that you have, this life that you're building, this experience you're having, it is really important. It's the one that you are using to have your experience right now. But that vibrational aspect of you is the part of you that keeps track of who you always are and what you always care about, what you love, what you want, the beauty, all of that. So who am I? Who am I? I don't know. It's a process every single day to learn who am I and how do I fit into this great super being that we all are. How do I contribute to its greater health and well-being? You know, how do I contribute to its supply chain, to its nervous system, to its understanding of itself, to its well, I do it this way, and I don't know where else that's going to get me. It's not the only thing I do. I still try to live my life. I'm trying to learn how to play golf, but my husband threw his back out 3 weeks ago, and we've hit a few golf balls since then, but we have not played a round of golf since. He's played 2 damn tournaments, but we have not gone out and played our little thing. I try. We have projects, we have family projects, we have a few things where we're trying to make some things happen in our collective life. And it's interesting as I watch these things unfold, as I observe how the universe uses the organizational force of spin to collect the cooperative components to desires for whatever projects you got going on. It's sort of very interesting to watch life unfold that way, because it does click. From the micro to the macro, it all does fit together. It really does. And who am I in all of this? Who are we in all of this? We are both enormous and itty-bitty small. If I try to claim my larger self, It is my sincere desire to hold on to my personal humility and to never lose track of my smallness at the same time that I embrace my allness. And that's what I think the task for all of us is, to embrace both of these wildly different sides of ourselves. We are both huge and capable and magnificent and wonderful and connected, as well as, small and ridiculous. I do recognize that I am small and ridiculous. And if you have spent the whole morning with me and listened to everything I've said, then God bless you. You are a hero with perhaps a stronger stomach than I have. Who am I? I'm going to ask that question one more time, and then I think I'm going to sign off for the day. I'm coming up on an hour and 45 minutes, and that certainly seems like a long enough oral meditation for one day. I have done my bit to try to bring order to the chaos, bring the spinning order of the inward spiral to the connecting point of love, that point, that shared point that connects us all. I've done it for the morning, and now I'm going to go forth and live my actual physical life and see how that works out. I'll be back perhaps tomorrow to tell you of my adventures if I can find any. And I hope that you go find your own adventures and we can swap stories on the other side of this. So until tomorrow, remember, we're all in this together. And so until tomorrow, may the source be with you.